Everyone, welcome back to AMTV. I am your anchor, Topher Morrison. It is Tuesday, May 21st, 2013. Something that's ever present on all Americans' minds are, what are Obama's crimes? What is he guilty of? What should we hold him accountable for? We know that the Department of Justice has been revealed to have set their sights on Fox News reporter James Rosen. CBS's Emmy Award-winning reporter Sharyl Attkisson now claims she was hacked. Now, whether the two are connected is unknown, but both intrusions come on the heels of a slew of scandals which have rocked the Obama White House. Impeach Obama hashtags on Twitter, Facebook pages, and unsurprisingly, entire websites are dedicated to exposing Obama. But has he done anything worthy of impeachment? More importantly, if there are there any cases where all political stripes could agree, whether they're disgruntled liberals, rabid conservatives, or reasoned libertarians? Now, remember when Obama promised to end enhanced interrogation techniques and torture? When he promised to close Guantanamo Bay, the symbol of that Bush-era campaign? Once in office, confronted with expending too much political capital in the fight to bring those involved to justice, Obama, many say, shirked his duty and promise to the American people.
The OLC memos that were released reflected, in my view, us losing our moral bearings. That's why I've discontinued those enhanced interrogation programs. For those who carried out some of these operations within the four corners of legal opinions or guidance that had been provided from the White House, I do not think it's appropriate for them to be prosecuted. With respect to those who formulated those legal decisions, I would say that that is going to be more of a decision for the Attorney General within the parameters of various laws, and I don't want to prejudge that. I think that there are a host of very complicated issues involved there. As a general view, I think that we should be looking forward and not backwards.
Last year, Eric Holder ended those investigations, if they even deserve the term, without charging anyone. Evidently, the campaign slogan in Obama's agenda, Forward, took precedence over accountability. But now Obama could potentially be on the hook for Bush administration's creative interpretation of the law. April of 2013 marked the 25-year anniversary of President Ronald Reagan's signing of the UN Convention Against Torture, a treaty ratified by the U.S. Senate. As the ACLU and other human rights advocates note, the refusal to investigate or prosecute anyone in the U.S. government for war crimes is a violation of that convention. Moreover, violation of treaties ratified by the Senate is an impeachable offense in and of itself. Ironically enough, in the days following the Boston bombing, the New York Times reported, quote, a study by an 11-member panel convened by the Constitution Project, a legal research and advocacy group, was to be released.
This next story would have received broad coverage were it not for this terrorist bombing in Boston, but a bipartisan review board has found it indisputable, in their words, that the United States has engaged in the practice of torture since 9/11. They say the highest officials in our country bear responsibility and share responsibility for it. The report says torture has damaged the standing of our nation, on top of potentially increasing the danger to U.S. military personnel taken captive. On top of all of it, the commission found no evidence that torture ever yielded any key information, no information that we are any safer because of it.
It is hard to reconcile Obama's rebuke of Bush-era wars simply because Obama's are smaller, quicker, and more high-tech. Zero body counts and no boots on the ground, of course, are the wave of the future, and it makes breaking the law that much easier. The War Powers Resolution of 1973, passed over Richard Nixon's veto, was intended to prevent future American presidents from usurping Congress's constitutional war powers, quote, to declare war, raise and support the armed forces, and control the war funding. The resolution attempts to add teeth to these powers by checking the president from committing U.S. forces for more than 60 days, and only in the effort to repel attacks against the United States. Libya, however, was never an imminent threat. But because a NATO coalition was used, even though the U.S. contributes the lion's share of funding and clout to that organization, Obama felt the War Powers Resolution was irrelevant and beside the point.
Do I think that our actions in any way violate the War Powers Resolution? The answer is no. So I don't even have to get to the constitutional question. There may be a time. There may be a time in which there was a serious question as to whether or not the War Powers Resolution Act was constitutional. I don't have to get to the question. We have engaged in a limited operation to help a lot of people against one of the worst tyrants in the world. Somebody who nobody should want to defend. And we should be sending out a unified message to this guy that he should step down and give his people a fair chance to live their lives without fear. And this suddenly becomes the cause célèbre for some folks in Congress? Come on.
Libya is now, quite literally, a failed state. The government struggles to be recognized even amidst its own electorate, and militias run the country by default. In the weeks and months following Muammar Gaddafi's murder, blacks from Libya's south were rounded up, tortured, and murdered in retribution for working with the previous regime. Al-Qaeda sects, empowered by the looted weapons and wealth, to say nothing of the power vacuum, were strengthened, further radicalized, emboldened, and moved on to overthrow Mali's government, ship heavy weapons to Syria, and add to mushrooming violence in the region, which resulted in the death of a U.S. ambassador and 3 other Americans in Benghazi last year. These facts fly in the face of neighborly democracy Obama claimed NATO's kinetic action would produce. And while Obama refused to comment on the constitutionality of the War Powers Resolution itself, his minions would seemingly rather seek war powers from abroad rather than from their own constitution.
And I want to be sure that the United States military understands, and I know you do, that we're not dependent on a NATO resolution or UN resolution to execute policies consistent with the national security of the United States. Do you think that you can act without Congress and initiate a no-fly zone in Syria without congressional approval?
You know, again, our goal would be to seek international permission, and we would come to the Congress and inform you and determine how best to approach this, whether or not we would want to get permission from the Congress. I think those are issues we would have to discuss as we decide what to do here.
Well, I'm almost breathless about that, because what I heard you say is we're going to seek international approval, and then we'll come and tell the Congress what we might do, and we might seek congressional approval.
No, well,
I want to just say to you, that's a big dish. Wouldn't you agree? You've served in the Congress.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree that that's would be pretty breathtaking to the average American?
Obama administration mistakes have also claimed the life of a Border Patrol agent and countless innocent Mexican civilians under the Fast and Furious scandal, when straw purchases of high-capacity weapons were allowed to walk across the U.S.-Mexico border by the ATF. Obama has since claimed executive privilege over subpoenaed internal Department of Justice documents, effectively stopping the investigation in its tracks. Meanwhile, Obama rallied to prevent Americans from owning the same weapons and had his State Department shut down non-profit Defense Distributed for freely disseminating plans for 3D printed guns. Obama, along with the NSC, the National Security Council, has ordered the assassination of 2 American citizens in secret deliberation without due process. And although he claims the administration is the most transparent of any in history, his legal team has fought to prevent the legal reasoning used to propel his targeted killing program, or what the New York Times calls a kill list, from being exposed to public scrutiny. His war on the rule of law and language itself does not end there, as his near indiscriminate drone campaign comes commensurate with its own definition of militants. That is, any military-aged males killed by U.S. drones are classified under the ubiquitous bad guy. And should any of these military-aged anybody's anywhere be deemed a threat to the U.S. by his secret society in the White House, he signed a bill that enshrines in law previously alleged executive powers of indefinite detention without trial for terror suspects. Brick by brick it is laid. The house of tyranny, like Rome, isn't built in a day. But with their revelations coming in a recent flood of scandal, the IRS targeting conservatives, the FBI spying on media, CIA links to running weapons into Syria from Libya, and with an upcoming Health and Human Services scandal threatening the very validity of Obamacare itself, the evidence piling up rather than add damning weight to any one case actually could become a benefit to Obama. It's his very own shock and awe campaign. Rather than mounting one single big case, the array of scandals almost beckons incredulity. He can't be breaking the law all of the time, can he? Capturing every corner of this alternative media, watch AMTV News Monday through Friday. Follow me on Twitter at AMTV News and like us on Facebook at Greenwave TV. Find my source material and more videos like these at AMTV Media and Greenwave.com. Both are part of the AMTV network. This is AMTV, the voice of independence.